If Councillor Solda has got the details, we will just get started, and I'm sure she'll be on any moment then.
Yes, I just admitted her.
Perfect. So we will call to order our regular meeting of council and start by recognizing that we are holding our meetings mostly joining from the unceded territories of the Sechot and Huipachesset First Nations. We do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items to be added by council? Seeing none, any late items to be added by our corporate officer?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So just an item of correspondence to add to your summary under J1, and that being a letter from NHC regarding the McLean Mill Dam. And then just to advise the public that just prior to council adjourning their regular meeting, council will be making a motion to return to their special in-camera meeting that they were holding earlier this morning, noting that the council had just recessed that meeting.
Okay, then we will, would somebody like to move approval of our agenda?
I'll move the approval.
Thank you. Approval of agenda as amended, moved by Councillor Poon, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments on agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have next minutes from the regular meeting of council held at 2 p.m. and the special meeting of council held at 4:52 p.m. on June 28th, 2021. Would somebody like to move adoption of the minutes?
Move adoption.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Poon. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. And Councillor Corbeil, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I have a question. In the minutes on page 5, it talked about the clock tower, and we were hoping to have it on the agenda for today's meeting, but unfortunately it doesn't appear to be on it. And I believe the CAO at the June 28th meeting talked about a draft report. Is that coming to the council fairly soon?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did mention the draft report and said it would be in this agenda. As it turned out, there were some questions that for which we did not get the answers in time for this agenda. There is an item on this agenda where we'll discuss a grant opportunity, and at that time, we'll bring up the clock tower as a potential target for that grant.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have moved and seconded adoption of the minutes. Seeing no further comments, all in favor? None opposed, carried. And we'll move on to public input period, which is an opportunity for members of the public to submit input on topics of relevance to City Council. A maximum of 4 submissions will be accommodated and read out loud by the Director of Corporate Services, and those submissions can be made by emailing council@portalberni.ca. Do we have any public input today?
No, Madam Mayor, none received.
Okay, thank you. We have no delegations today and no unfinished business, so we'll move on to our staff reports. Item number 1, accounts. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the certification of Director of Finance dated July 12, 2021 be received and checks numbering 148718 to 148784, inclusive, in payments of accounts totaling $657,695.65 be approved.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Poon. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we'll go to item 2 from the Director of Development Services and Deputy CAO, Architectural Services for the Child Care Centre.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So before you, there's a report that provides some information on potential additional services that can be provided by Waymark Architecture for our Child Care Center project on 8th Avenue. When we entered into the initial contract with them, it was a full contract for full architectural and all the other professionals services that would normally done for a project like this. Since as the architect and the other professionals have begun work on this project and started to do some of the design, they have proposed 3 additional services for us to consider as part of the design phase, as opposed to at the time of tendering of the contract. The first 2 are fairly related. One is to do detail of the one of the security system, and the other is the fire protection system. These are sometimes done at the tendering stage, where companies that are submitting bids on this project, they would engage their own experts to do the design of the security and fire protection system and submit that as part of their bid process. Having this work done upfront as part of our architect and design team would, in my mind, allow for more effective integration of these works, and would establish a more competitive bidding process, as all the applicants or the contractors who are bidding this would know exactly that they're all bidding on the same specifications of this work. And I feel this is even kind of more important, given that both the security and fire protection systems will need to integrate between the existing Roland Arts Center building and the new childcare center. So it's not just like a brand new standalone building. You know, you're integrating an old building and a new building with these two systems. So I think it's really important that it be done early on. And I think there'll be some cost savings at the end of the project by doing it this way. The third service is having a commissioning program built in at the early stages of the design of the building. This work is sometimes done as a subtrade of the mechanical contractor towards the end of the building of it. I think incorporating it into the design stage, again, would help with the continuity of the building and help ensure the commissioning of the building is effective and timely. I can tell you that some previous experience I had with another organization in building a brand new building, the commissioning went far less smooth than one would have hoped at the end, especially as you had a variety of contractors and professionals trying to do it. Staff have reviewed these additional services, so I reached out to other staff with the city, including our facilities supervisor and our building inspector. And we feel that there's really strong value into adding these services upfront in the design phase, as opposed to having them part of the tender phase. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions of council.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Scott. The total on this is 51,900 now. Just to reassure me, this won't compromise the overall project where we have to cut a corner somewhere else in the dollar value here, that this will actually be saving us money.
And that's the intent, is it will, there's some more upfront money with the design and the architect, but I think we'll save money at the time of the tender process. And of course, I'm keeping an eye very strongly on the budget as we go forward to be sure that the whole project stays within that budget framework that we have.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further comments, Councillor Paulson, would you like to read the motion?
I'm kind of flipping back and forth here. It is item number 2. There we go. I would like to move that council approve an amendment to the contract with Waymark Architecture to add additional services, including security system design, complete fire protection services, and commissioning in an amount of $51,900.
I'll second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 3 from the Chief Administrative Officer, the Coroner's Inquest, Jocelyn George, and recommendations for the City of Port Alberni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. During the month of June, BC Coroner Service conducted an inquest into the death of Jocelyn George, an 18-year-old Port Alberni resident who had been transported directly to hospital from custody and cells at the Port Alberni RCMP detachment and died hours later in Royal Jubilee Hospital. So the verdict and coroner's inquest document that resulted from the coroner's inquest has been published and is attached to my staff report. It includes 24 recommendations, several of which call for action from the city of Port Alberni. I recommend that council direct staff to review these recommendations and bring forward to council a report that suggests methods in which the city might action these recommendations.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns from council? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I always believe that when there's a tragedy, there's always an opportunity to learn from that tragedy and to do things better. And I think there's certainly a way for the city to learn to do things better and make improvements as we move forward. So I'd like to make that motion. I'd like to move that a staff report be provided by for council's consideration, outlining potential actions that could be implemented by the city to address recommendations outlined within the verdict at coroner's request, report dated June 30th, 2021, for which the city is an addressee.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Poon. And I just want to echo the comments that have already been made and thank our CAO for bringing this forward so quickly following the recommendations coming out. Having had the opportunity to sit through most of the coroner's inquest, I really appreciated the fact that it is very focused around, preventing future deaths and, similar situations happening in our community and others. It was very future oriented, opportunities to be better. And I think there's some good recommendations here for the city that, we will look at. But I think additional to that, there's some really good opportunities here for the city to be advocating and partnering on. So overall, I think that I'm hopeful that we'll be able to use this as a positive step to keep everybody in our community and others safer and just improve the systems that we have. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And item number 4 from our CAO, remuneration for mayor and councillors.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A topic that no council wants to deal with, but it falls on you to address this. Municipal councils, just by the nature of their decisions and their authority, it falls on them to make decisions around remuneration for mayor and council, members of council. And as my report says, it's often challenging for any council to address. And in fact, previous councils in Port Alberni have addressed this issue, and it's been challenging for them. And most recently, in 2019, council sought to address that, or 2018, I believe it was, it wasn't successful. So in 2019, this council adopted a revised bylaw to provide council member remuneration and expenses and special expenditures. And so that bylaw says in part that in the 3rd year of each term of council, the city undertake a review of mayor and council remuneration, and the results of that review be considered by council. And any changes that council chooses to implement to that remuneration are not effective until January 1st after following the next election, which would be January 1st, 2023 in our case. So you're asked, or you're directed by bylaw to consider the matter. And if you choose to make changes to remuneration for mayor and council, those changes would be effective after the next election for the incumbents at that time. Again, I get that this is a really challenging thing for council to deal with. I will editorialize that I think it's a very good bylaw and practice, and that you should not shirk this duty. You should deal with it. My recommendation to council is, well, before I say that, the city has retained a compensation consultant, Julie Case, and Ms. Case is here to present her findings to council. And my recommendation, and you'll see those, how it's supported by the data Ms. Case will bring. My recommendation is that council implement a change to compensation for the mayor, moving that to $59,100 per year, starting in 2023, and for members of council to 26,300, and plus consumer price index increases in each year. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to introduce you to Ms. Cates.
Thank you, Julie, and thanks for being here. Thanks, Tim. And we will pass it over to Julie for any information she'd like to provide.
All right. Thank you. So that recommendation was there, and there was some backup to that recommendation. There's a couple of slides. Were they ready, Tim? There they go. Yay, thank you. So maybe we just go skip to slide 2 is just exactly what Tim had just said, that this is the recommendation. And so the backup to that recommendation is on slide 3, essentially, where this is the data that we collected on your behalf. And we've presented it all because this information is in the public sphere. It's easy to collect. And so we have presented the detailed data there. We've got data from 10 comparator organizations, so 10 other local governments. You can see them listed there. We've got them listed in descending order of size by that first column, which is annual expenses. So that's why Vernon's at the top, or Port Alberni's at the very top there for comparison purposes. And then we've got the 10 in descending order of size for annual expenses. So the first column shows that this is the size for annual expenses. The second column is showing what the population, it's the census plus estimates is what that second column is. Those numbers, those first 2 columns, the numbers come from the provincial government website. So those numbers are submitted to the government consistently by the finance people. So they're all measured the exact same way. And then the third column there has got listed what the current annual base salary is for each of the mayors in each of those 10 cities. And then the next column is the current annual base salary of each of the councillors as well. And then that last column shows the councillor salary as a percentage of the mayor. Many of the cities just do the math formula. So they figure out what the mayor is going to be paid, and then they do the math formula for the councillors. And so that's what that column shows. And then at the bottom there, I've just got it summarized for you so that you can see where Port Alberni fits in terms of size, in terms of expenses. You're pretty close to the median there. And in terms of the population as well, close to the median of that group. And then when we look at the salary, you're a little bit behind on the salary. So the mayor currently in Port Alberni is at $42,500, and the median salary number for that group is $59,100. It's just been rounded up to the nearest 100. And for the councillors at $26,300. And so that's where the recommendation from staff comes from, is to move to the median level of that defined marketplace. And in my experience, when I do these kind of surveys, the median is where most organizations choose to be. So you don't want to be the highest, you don't want to be the lowest. We just want to be in the middle. And that's what that median number reflects. And we go with the median rather than the average, because the average can be inflated or deflated by a couple of high or low numbers in the sample. So depending on the sample, if there's one high number in there, it can pull the average up. If there's one low number in there, it can pull the average down. So that's why we go with the median, because the median is just focusing in or targeting that middle level of the market, and is not overly affected by high numbers or low numbers within the sample. If we go to the next slide, slide 4 just summarizes the data there in terms of how Port Alberni's salary compared to that marketplace at the median level. So you're at about 72% of what the others are paying for their elected officials. And then the recommendation is on slide 5. So giving you a couple of options there. If you wanted to go to the median level of the market, this is what it would look like. So you'd be looking at a $16,500 increase for the mayor to go up to $59,100. And for the councillors, we did it two ways. We took the pure median level market, which is the 26.3, and that's what's in the staff report. So that results in an increase of about $7,500 per councillor. Or the other way is to take a look at, if you want to do the math and do the percentage of the Port Alberni councillor as a percentage of the mayor. So your current math formula is about 44%. So if you did 44% of the mayors, then it would be about 26,000. So not much change there. So those are the numbers. That was the data that we were asked to collect. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there questions from council? Councillor Corbeil.
Yeah, back in, I believe it was about 2017, possibly 2018, the federal government removed the 1/3 salary taxation. I believe it was about 13% of the councillors' wages. Is that correct?
It was in 2019. So it was 1/3 of the elected officials' salaries were tax-free, and starting in 2019, the government took away that tax benefit for councillors, and so at that time, yes, there was that's happened in 2019.
So what would that have been in real dollars if a council was making, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of $18,000?
Gosh, I have to go and take a look at the tax rate. I know that I worked with some other councils who, when they did this, they looked at the numbers and then wanted to do a bit of an offset. So they said, if we're being taken away that 1/3, what could we do to increase salaries that would make sure the same amount of money is kind of going in our pocket? The assumption on that would be that the salary for the councillors would be the first, that would be your tax rate at the lowest rate. So if you were making $300,000 somewhere else, we wouldn't be adding that onto your $300,000. So they would tax it at that lowest rate, that first level of taxes. And it equated somewhere between about 7 and 11% is what the offset was in my experience when I did this a few times.
And I asked the question simply because 40% increase looks pretty outrageous. Unfortunately, we did not make changes when we could have in previous councils. And certainly whatever that worked out to, that third that wasn't taxed, that should have been dealt with several years ago, and then increases wouldn't look so outrageous. But I don't know if you can do this in stages. Just the 40% number just sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Poon.
Thank you. I think that changes is necessary. I think that we as a community will benefit from higher wages on our council, because we're opening it up to being more accessible, so that more people can participate in council. So I think that it is important to provide that incentive to recruit the best person for the job.
Thank you, Councillor Poon. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a difficult time with this, but what brought me around to supporting it is that, in my experience, people that are employed or in business have a difficult time leaving their job or their place of where they operate their business, because they lose money by taking a day off for council meetings or going to conferences or doing council business. So in order for us to open up ability for a different group of people to come in and run for council or run for mayor, I think it's necessary that we pay a little bit more to open that up. So it's not just mostly retired people that can come on to council. So that's my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Julie.
So I just wanted to circle back to that other question. We did ask the question about if, of that group of 10, if any of them made adjustments since 2009, and 9 out of the 10 did say that they had made adjustments to council salaries since 2019. Some of them to do an offset, some of them as a market review.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to echo Councillor Haggard's thoughts, because when you go into council chambers and you look around at the room, the aldermen of the past were all businessmen, business owners, as sort of an old boys group for many years. So I'm thinking to get a diverse council. Yes, we're working. Yes, we're taking time off work. We shouldn't have dragged our heels in 2019, because that was probably part of my fault. But I think it's going to take, we're going to take some heat, but it's going to be good for the next council that comes in. And in my opinion, our mayor is grossly underpaid compared to the work that she does put in. So my hat's off to you, Mayor, and I hope we can get this through.
Thank you, Councillor Washington. And I'll just echo some of the comments that have been made. I think that these roles are changing in our communities, and that's a good thing. It certainly, our councils today and our last council even, and councils around Vancouver Island certainly look very different than they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think that we need to shift to a model that opens up to more members of our community being able to take on these roles. And that is recognizing that specifically for people, who have other jobs, you have to be able to compensate them in a way that makes them not lose money for taking on these roles. It's just a challenge, obviously, younger families and not necessarily just younger families nowadays. The world looks different where fewer people have, pension jobs, and we want to make sure that our councils can represent our communities as diversely as possible. So I think that we are making the best of a challenging situation. As our CAO indicated earlier, it is never ideal to have to determine our own wages. And with the policy that this council implemented a couple years ago, we are taking it as far out of our hands as possible. At the end of the day, we have to make the decision still, but we are not making the decisions for ourselves. We're not giving ourselves a raise. We are making a decision for the next council. And that is really as third party as we are able to make it, unfortunately, in a situation where we are required to determine our own pay. So thanks everyone for your comments. Would anybody like to read the motion? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. I'd like to move that effective January 1st, 2023, remuneration for the position of mayor be increased as $59,100 plus adjustments for consumer price index equal to BC for the years 2022 and 2023, and remuneration for the position of councillor be increased to $26,300 plus adjustments for consumer price index equal to BC for the years 2022 and 2023.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Poon. Any additional comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Julie, for the information. We appreciate being able to see it all broken down like that.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to item number 5 from our Economic Development Manager. We have a verbal report.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Deacon's not available today, so I'll be speaking from his notes. So Mr. Deacon was going to verbally report to council that a grant opportunity has come available, the Canada Community Revitalization Fund, with a closing deadline of Friday, July 23rd. So this is the last regular meeting at which council can consider this. The program funds up to 75% of shovel-ready projects costs to a maximum of $750,000. But applications under $500,000 and under 50% of project costs will get priority. The shovel-ready projects, in order of importance, the categories are revitalization of main streets and downtown cores, improve or reinvent outdoor spaces, reduce environmental impacts, increase accessibility to public spaces. The project must be completed by March 31st, 2023. And based on all of the above, the only shovel-ready project that we believe the city to have that may qualify is the conversion of the clock tower to a story tower. So we spoke earlier about the clock tower project. We think that may be a good fit for this application stream. The Port Authority has made a request that the city apply for a project that they would like to present to council, and Dave McCormick is waiting to join this meeting to present that project to council. The Port Authority is not an eligible applicant, and so they've asked that the city apply on their behalf for a project at Taillé Landing. So we're seeking council's direction on this. We have been made aware that a municipality can make more than one application, and if we do that, that we should indicate what our preferences or priority sequencing for the multiple applications. So, Madam Mayor, Council, if you wanted to speak about the clock tower, I can speak to that as best I can. And if you're ready, when you're ready to hear from Mr. McCormick about the Port Authority's project, he can join us and present.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions about the clock tower project? I think we're all familiar, and I would say excited and optimistic to get this project completed. Councillor Corbeil and then Councillor Solda.
Well, I guess my question is, at one time we thought we had funding for the clock tower, and I guess we don't now. And what has changed?
Madam Mayor, Council has added funding to this project, I believe, 3 times, and the scope has shifted and outpaced our budgeting. We spoke earlier about a draft report that's not here because there's questions to which we don't have the answers. One of those questions was, why has the project gone up a further $50,000? So currently the projection is $50,000 more than the money that we have in hand. And we haven't been able to get the answers adequate to bring it to council's attention. So we are currently, that project is short $50,000.
Thank you. And just to add to that, just because Councillor Corbeil, you referenced that we had money, and we did also receive a grant from Island Corridor from ICE-T, Island Coastal Economic Trust. And so we were successful in that grant application and do have those funds. Of course, I don't have the exact amount on hand, but we have gotten funding for this, and then the city has additionally contributed funding. Did you have a follow-up question, Councillor Corbeil?
Well, I'm just curious. I believe the contractor who had the original bid has moved on. Does that affect this project at all?
Council, first of all, I think you'd be better off discussing this with a report in front of you, and I apologize that we are not able to have that report here today. The original bidder, I recall we had one bidder on that project, and that bidder has stayed engaged and worked with the city and the engineering firm to modify the scope of work, and are still prepared to take it on with a modified scope and a modified price. Council's not yet awarded that contract.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, my concern is escalating costs. I mean, we keep getting behind and the costs keep rising. So, and it's been an ongoing thing. I sure would like to get it done before this term's over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I'll just echo that on behalf of council, that this is a really important project. And I just want to say that although it is frustrating to see costs going up on this project, that anytime you are, revitalizing an old asset, this kind of thing is just, unfortunately expected. And I would think that anyone currently in the process of renovating or doing anything in, the construction kind of field is feeling the same thing. So we're certainly not the only ones with larger projects like this, seeing cost escalations. It's unfortunately just the reality that we're in right now. Tim?
Council, I share your frustration with how long this project's taken and the costing of it. That's one of the reasons why we think this might be a good opportunity to seek grant funding to cover 50% of this cost. It might be a good fit for us, and it would mean delaying it until they tell us, this grant managers tell us they will award within 4 weeks. It could be, we haven't touched base with the engineers in this yet, it could be that we can still complete it this year, or that we push it off till early next year. Those are things that you might want to consider. we're trying to engage with the Port Authority in this meeting right now, and I'm not sure if Mr. McCormick's with us yet.
Okay, if he is, I think we're ready for him.
Okay.
Hi, Madam Mayor. Apologies. We're having some trouble connecting with Mr. McCormick. So if you would care to move on to the next one, we can loop back to that if that works for you, and I'll continue to try connecting him.
Absolutely. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, so we have, Councillor Paulson.
Pending a decision on the grant, and if we were not successful in the grant, what's our backup plan? We've been talking about this project for almost 7 years now, and it's kind of where we're at is after a grant to help us finish the project. What are our alternatives if the grant application were to fail?
Tim?
Council, I think that's the basis of the report that is outstanding that you need to receive and see what the alternatives are. And then at that meeting, you'll have staff here who are better versed on the project. You can speak to it.
Thank you. Okay, so if council's okay with it, we will move on and come back to this item. We have, oh, never mind. We will wait. We have Dave McCormick on now. Well done, Dave. So Dave, we were just about to move on to the next item, but we will pause. And if you'd like to make your presentation of what the Port Authority is hoping the city could apply for on their behalf, we are happy to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you to the fellow councillors and staff for working through. I have a witness. I was pressing the correct link each time, but for the sake of expediency here, we'll go rather quickly. So thank you for the opportunity to make not so much a presentation as much as a request for a funding application for a project that we believe at the Port Authority is in line with the vision that we share with the city to continue to enhance Port Alberni's vital and dynamic waterfront. But before we get into it, I want to take this opportunity to introduce my new colleague, Kate Smith. Kate is 2 weeks into her time with the Port Authority, and Kate has been hired for the primary responsibility of overseeing and helping to develop and grow the Dock Plus Food Hub. So Kate will take 20 seconds just to introduce herself really quickly, and that segues into what we want to talk about today.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for letting us join you. Me, as being a part of this community, I'm very excited to actually be a part of the community and see it grow. I think that there is a lot of potential, especially sitting in such a beautiful location. I'm just discovered in Port Alberni, and there are so many beautiful places, and we're surrounded by beautiful nature. And if there is a way for us to make it better and make it grow and for all the community members to enjoy it, we'll be happy to do so.
Thanks, Kate. So one of the things we had looked at a number of years ago when the Port Authority started to develop what's now known as Tyee Landing along strip of what is now just basically tarmac immediately to the north of Fisherman's Harbor and south of the former Somas cedar mill. We had envisioned a growing, vibrant area that piggybacks on and enhances the great activities in Harbor Key. And we've started to develop some success and achieve some major goals for the community, in large part because of the support of the city. And we need not to point any further than the Dock Plus Food Hub. And if you recall, the Dock Plus Food Hub became a viable opportunity to leverage Port Authority assets with the City of Port Alberni's eligibility to apply for funding under the Provincial Food Hub program. The success of that, we're really starting to see that grow in the number of new businesses and individuals being attracted to the community. And so the next step that we'd like to see is further developments and enhancement on Tyee Landing to enhance the area, provide some vibrancy, some vitality in what's becoming quite an exciting area down near the waterfront, and with some of the other things that have already occurred with, for example, the Thunderbird Building, Carmore Block, developments in Harbor Key. We've had events at Tyee Landing in the past pre-COVID, and now we want to take that next step. And what's critically missing there is a gathering place with a community plaza, so to speak, with the shelter that can provide shelter from the sun and heat and the wind that we have today throughout the summer and throughout the winter, where people can gather for whether it's tourism, retail vendors, farmers markets, musical gatherings, etc. Through Western Economic Diversification, a new funding program came up quite recently called the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. Thank you very much. There's our high-level concept drawing right now of what's imagined, what's envisioned, would be in line with the wood and West Coast structures that we're familiar with and quite fond and proud of here in Port Alberni. Something like this obviously has a magnitude of approximately $750,000 to $1 million, a little steep for us. So we've been obviously monitoring the funding programs that are becoming online and available. And this Canada Community Revitalization Fund is designed specifically to enhance otherwise underutilized areas in communities to create vitality and resiliency post-pandemic here. And the program itself provides up to 75% funding to a max of $750,000. And we believe that we've got a great story to tell and leverage off of all the other developments, some of which quickly referenced here. The rub in this for the Port Authority and why we're coming to City Council today is that Canadian Port Authorities, which we are one of 17, are not eligible applicants. Municipalities, however, are applicants. And through our conversations with the economic development manager, we believe that by putting myself and Kate to work here at the Port Authority, as well as the Port Authority's land, vision, and our capital reserves, if we could ask City Council to provide approval for the city to partner with us as the applicant in name and come to a letter of understanding that should the project be successful in receiving funding under this program, that again, the Port Authority would take on all this for the cost and administration and construction obligations. I've been told by the economic development manager that Western Economic Diversification is okay with this arrangement. Again, I believe the Port Authority believes that it is in line with the city's waterfront vision. And the application does close very shortly, July 23rd. So we certainly don't want to miss an opportunity to bring some much needed government contributions into the community to continue to build on what we have and continue to achieve the goals that we share for that dynamic, improved, enhanced waterfront vision. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing this to us today. And I'll just, I think, start by saying that while I think that the general idea is certainly we are aligned on visions for the waterfront, I don't think that we are quite there yet in being aligned. I think that this is a great initiative, and actually, I couldn't love more the concept of, a covered gathering space, maybe a public market. Who knows what it could be, especially as this area develops. I think we very much share in that vision. I feel like with the space that is currently available at Tyee Landing, and having to, because it is a roadway, having to have it, be a covered driving area, a covered road, I don't think fits the vision. My preference would be, and although I'm typically not one to say, let's not go for this grant opportunity, my preference would be that we wait, given the city's current action with the Somas Mill site, that of course is adjacent to this, and we look for a more ideal location to build a structure like this and apply to the next round of funding. I think this is absolutely the type of initiative that we all want to see move forward, but I don't think trying to place it on a sliver of Tyee Landing just because that's the space we have available today is necessarily our best long-term approach. So council, my preference would be that we continue to work on this project together, but that we wait until we have more certainty around the SOMAS lands and see if there's possibly a more suitable location where we could get the most value possible out of a project like this.
If I may, Madam Mayor, perhaps some of the concept drawings are a little bit misleading. The intention is not at all to provide, and I believe this wasn't your full point, is not to provide a covered area for traffic. The Port Authority would restrict traffic to the area. It would be tall enough in order to enable access to Tyee Pier for emergency vehicles and for the supply of fuel to the waterfront, the marine fuel sewer, the private marine fuel service provider as well. We've been looking for a number of years at the Port Authority to find a match of a funding program. We are aware of some of the city's vision and idea and the process happening with the former SOMAS site. I think we'd all like to wave a magic wand. We all want to do things right, not rushed. That said, we believe that this can help provide a vision and kickstart to what we all believe can and should be at the SOMAS site.
Yeah, I think right, not rushed is the key there for sure. And we don't know what will be at the SOMAS site yet. And I think that's part of my concern as well, is we want to likely make sure that something like this would fit in the right place, the right location. So anyways, that's just my thoughts. I think it's a fantastic project. It just feels to me like we're not quite there yet because there's so much uncertainty surrounding. And I just think that we could take this project and make it significantly better if it was focused around the land the community may have access to in the future versus just focusing in on what we have access to today. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask the question, throw something else out in the mix with the Dock Plus Food Hub. Is there any ability to maybe do some kind of expansion there? Would that go along with the grant?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Haggard. As you know, the space there is very tight, as it was for the Working Fishermen's Harbor that we have, and it's become that much more of a traffic juggling act with how active the Dock Plus Food Hub is. So great idea, one that we certainly explored. The space doesn't quite accommodate something that this particular funding program is open to considering. It really is designed to create, lack of a better phrase here, a wow factor of a gathering space for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, David, I for one would love to see shade down on Tyee Landing. But I think, like the mayor says, there might be something happening on the SOMAS side. So there's no way you could shift that over to the water side and have some shaded area or some cover there? Is that possible, or we're running out of time for a grant application?
As we know, anything's possible with the right amount of money, right amount of time, and right amount of imagination. The toughest one is obviously the first one, the money. And down closer to the water's edge is that much wider. It's practically double the width of the area as well, closer to the Harbor Road end of Tyee Landing. The other thing that we're mindful of and ask for our concept designers is to factor in the viewscape, both east towards Mount Arrowsmith and west towards the water. If we were to place the structure closer to the water, that would certainly, again, right amount of money, go with glass or structure, that type of thing. But that would restrict the viewscape as well as some of the operations there for the fuel provider.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. My thought is, if it's not going to cost us any money and the Port Authority is going to take on the full responsibility for it, we are able to put in 2 grant applications. But I would say, and stating a preference, and I think our preference is certainly trying to finish the clock tower So if we could do that, put in both 2 applications, but state our preferences to finish the clock tower, is that a possibility? Or how would other council members feel about that?
I think we absolutely can put in 2 grant applications, as our CAO has indicated. My preference personally is that we continue to work on this project until we get it to a point where it really will be something that will add significant value to our community. And I hate to be negative, but I just don't feel the project is there yet based on the preliminary drawings that have been shown. I think we can do a lot better if we work together and make sure that we are putting something forward that is in the best location, the right time, right location, and that, yeah, I mean, maybe it'll be a joint project when, we get to that point, but my personal feeling is this is just not the best use of this space, unfortunately. So my preference would be, since I'm seeing no other comments, that we do move forward with the clock tower application at this time, and that we direct staff to continue working with the Port Authority on a gathering space concept. And I think that we need to make sure that we are taking into consideration, once we get to the appropriate point with the SOMAS lands, that we take into consideration that entire site. We have talked as a council about a master planning kind of opportunity for that site. And I think that until we start that process, it's a bit premature to determine where something like this would be best suited.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, that was the longest motion ever, if it was a motion, but I think what you're seconding is, just to clarify, I'll say that my motion is to submit the grant application for the clock tower at this time and direct staff to continue working with the Port Authority on a gathering space concept.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. And David, want to thank you for bringing this forward. Sorry, we are not supporting it today, but really do appreciate your intent here with looking to create something really positive for the community. I think we can get there for sure. Just want to make sure that we create something that will work long term.
But thank you very much for your time and consideration. As you know, we're extremely proactive here at the Port Authority and want to take full advantage of every opportunity that comes our way, because the what ifs might and could be's sometimes never are. But with this council and the motivation that you and your group has, I especially look forward to continuing to work with staff to achieve those goals. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Haggard.
Can I just clarify, I'm not against submitting the grant application for the clock tower. I'm absolutely 100% in support of that. I would just like to have submitted 2 applications. So that's why I voted against the motion, just to clarify. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, we will move on then. Tim, did you need anything further from us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we'd like a resolution from council that will support the grant application. If you want to make an application for the clock tower, then we'll need a resolution.
I think we made that.
Was that part and parcel?
Yes, it was to submit the grant application for the clock tower.
Okay, I'm sorry, I gapped on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Then we will move on. We have no bylaws on our agenda today, so moving on to correspondence for action. And we have one item, correspondence addressed to Mayor and Council. A letter dated June 15, 2021 from the Alberni District Fall Fair Association requesting temporary road closure for the purpose of holding a parade. Council, are there any questions on this? Councillor Poon.
Oh, just a comment. I'm just excited that we're back to having parades and so on.
And back to having a fall fair. Very exciting, although I know I did see on social media that they've announced they are intending to hold the fall fair again this year, somewhat reduced and different, but it's a huge step. And I know how hard that group of volunteers works year round to make this happen and how much our community loves it. So very excited to see that this is moving forward again this year. And of course, the parade is a great component annually for everyone. Councillor Poon, would you like to read this motion?
Sure. I'll move that council authorize the temporary road closure of 10th Avenue and Bird Street along to Alderwood Street as requested by the Alberni District Fall Fair Association for the purpose of holding a parade Saturday, September 11th, 2021 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., subject to the notification of emergency services and BC Transit, consultation with all affected businesses and residents, implementation of a traffic plan, provision of a standard liability insurance, COVID-19 safety plan or communicable disease plan in accordance with provincial health orders and guidelines in effect at the time of the event, capacity attendees to align with BC Restart Plan guidelines if applicable.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Paulson. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. No proclamations today, so we'll move on to correspondence for information. Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the correspondence before you today speaks to 11 items, including our late item for a total of 12. These items range from correspondence from a number of other municipalities to a few items from different departments within the provincial government. It also includes the BC Lottery Corporation advising about their reopening starting July 1st as part of the Restart Plan, Step 3, as well as a letter from Western Forest Products advising that they're preparing to submit a request for information to the Government of Canada's Canada's Forest Initiative, which aims to plant 2 billion trees in Canada by 2030. And then we have our late item from Northwest Hydraulic Consultants speaking to a contract for recent works at McLean Mill Dam. And those are all our items today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I do just want to, before I turn it over to council questions, the late item today is regarding the McLean Mill Dam work and is just an opinion on the value that we received for the money we paid for that project. So I just want to clarify a little bit. Due to a concern that was brought forward from a member of the public regarding the award of the tender for the McLean Mill Dam reconstruction project, Council in camera sought advice from a qualified professional firm to review whether good value for money was received by the city. Council is satisfied that the letter from Northwest Hydraulic Consultants Limited verifies that the city received good value for this project and the contract, and specifically from the contractor who was chosen. Council appreciates the concerns that have been brought forward from members of our community, and we take these concerns very seriously. Council also collectively feels strongly that this was a good project that needed to be done, and we are glad that it has been completed, and we feel really fortunate that we had the opportunity to hire a local contractor who was qualified and available to complete the work. On behalf of Council, I want to thank Northwest Hydraulic Consultants Limited for their professional advice on this matter. I want to thank Bowerman Excavating for their excellent work that they did on the project. And as well, I do want to also thank our staff who have put many years of hard work into the McLean Mill Dam project, and Council is now happy to see that this project is completed. Are there any questions or comments from Council on this or any other items of correspondence? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the letter from Western Forest Products about the partnering for the federal 2 billion trees initiative. Do we have any ability to maybe contact Western Forest Products to see about working with them on any tree planting projects within the city?
That's a great question. I think a good place for this would be at the WEWAG meetings. I can't remember what WEWAG stands for at the moment, but I believe Dan is our council liaison on that committee. So Councillor Washington, if you could bring that forward at the next meeting, it would be, I think, a great place to talk about if there's an opportunity for partnership there.
West Island Wilderness Advisory Group. And I'd be pleased to do that for you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
How did I not remember that? Thank you.
That's woodlands, not wilderness.
Woodlands. Thank you. Any other items to comment on from the correspondence? Okay, seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt of the correspondence, including the late item?
I'll move receipt.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Poon, seconded by Councillor Solda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And no reports from in camera, although that last item was released specifically from in camera as commented on. Council reports, any items councillors would like to highlight? Okay, seeing none. New business, we have one item of new business, and that is the audit committee meeting schedule. And we had a notice of motion from the June 28th, 2021 meeting. I wonder if our CAO could just briefly comment on the current meeting schedule and what that changed from.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And I did not anticipate this question. The Director of Finance is not in the meeting today. He's on vacation. So rather than get it wrong, I'm not equipped to answer that right now.
No problem. I was meaning to call on the Director of Finance, and I remembered as I was saying it that he is on holidays. So thought I'd see if you could answer it, but that is fine. I believe we are currently, we've switched to only twice a year, which was some of our confusion. And I think the committee is feeling that it's not quite regular enough. So I think I'll pass this over to council for conversation. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we were, the audit committee of the past was meeting quarterly, and then we changed it twice a year. And our first meeting, it was just too overwhelming for the committee. There were just so many questions and so much had already occurred that between Councillor Solda and Councillor Corbeil and myself, we decided quarterly is much better for us to keep a handle on the audit side of it. So that's what we're proposing.
Okay. If you'd like, Councillor Washington, you're welcome to make a formal motion for council to change back to quarterly or adjust the terms of reference, I guess it would be.
Yeah, the council directs staff to revisit the meeting frequency of the audit committee meeting, and the audit committee meeting would suggest quarterly meetings.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Any additional comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, and thanks for bringing that forward. And we'll move on next to question period, which is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council. And again, those questions can be submitted to council@portalberni.ca. Sarah, have we received any questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No questions have been received.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Then this is the end of our meeting. As we are returning to in-camera, we will not be, we'll make a motion to reconvene our in-camera meeting. We will be moving to do that once we turn off the YouTube rather than adjourning today.
A motion to move in the camera, Madam Mayor.
Sarah?
No, that's perfect. I was just going to say we will move forward with the motion as well to adjourn prior to turning off the YouTube.
Perfect. Councillor Corbeil seconded. All in favor? Carried. Great. And motion to adjourn the public, I believe, was just said as well. Moved by Councillor Paulson. Seconded by Councillor Solda. All the hands up in the air and all in favor. Carried. Thank you.